Monday, 8th of September 25. I'm a bit late to talk about Angela Rayner because she resigned last Friday, I think it was, because of her tax affairs when buying her home in Brighton. And I just wondered if it was a crime, because we're talking about £40,000 or something. But just before that, I would like to say that I think Angela Rayner's a fantastic character. I mean, when she done Prime Minister's Questions as deputy, she made me laugh all the time. She's probably the funniest person in Parliament. I mean, deliberately. Uh, Quite a character and all that. It's amazing the way she's came up because she came from a workless household. So I find her, you know, what's it? I really appreciate her as a person. And I mean, she didn't even stand as leader last time. I think she would have probably won it because her friend, I can't remember her name now, the other MP, she was standing for it, so she decided to go for deputy. I think I've got that right. But her other didn't have any popularity and she pulled it quickly or something. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, probably Labour would be in a lot better position if Angela Rayner was a leader. But I think she's someone, no matter how good she is, say it, what's the word I would use for it? Dealing with people in Parliament, well, dealing with the other side in Parliament. She's someone that's I couldn't ever vote for her in because on the big issue, the only issue that matters, she's for the change. So for that reason, I could never vote for her anyway. I don't know if I would even vote for her to do with all the other things as well. But she's one of these ones that seems to be a judge character. I'd be interested to know if she was a bully at school, but I heard a video about her um, from 2019 that she done, and she said she wasn't. She was bullied, although she did hit some girl once because she wanted a friend, and the friend told her to hit a girl, and she did or something. So I don't know, but I mean, because she's a real, what's the word for it? She's a real sort of winners in the present tense. I'm not talking about in overall. I mean, in that situation, I could imagine. That's. Uh, I'm talking a lot of rubbish now. You know what I mean, don't you? Anyway, there was a great interview with her on Channel 4 on a podcast with the lady who does the Channel 4 news. But she's probably talked about her childhood a lot more as well. She came from a workless child home. No, neither her parents worked. She called the dad a sort of ducker and diver, and she used to do things like she'd be helping him, she'd be holding stuff in the cold while he was changing a fuse in the car or something like that. She'd actually be holding a torch or something. All these sort of situations. I mean, she's a great raconteur. She's very likeable as a person. I'm not talking about politics, but yeah. They came from a workless household, and there was one time she was aged about 10 where she lay on the floor at her mother's bed um, because she was worried that her mother was going to maybe commit suicide or something. So it was really tough, and she said she didn't want to bring people round her because the house was really dirty, and her brother and that felt the same way as well. Yeah. And then when she was about 13, she was going to things like going to Manchester Airport, just to hang around with her friends and stuff. Then she got pregnant at 16. But then I wondered about maybe she stayed in benefits for a while, but she actually went to college straight away and became a social care worker around about, I don't know what age she was, say 17, 18, I don't know. But so she decided to get into work herself, and then she didn't know about trade unions and that. She heard what's trade union, but then she ended up going to trade union route and going high up in the northwest there, and that's how she became an MP, really, through the trade union for the social care thing. And I think she said she thought she was one of the last social care workers taken on by Salford Council as a in-house thing, maybe because after that they contracted out social care, I think. So it was really interesting hearing about all that. But yeah, I was just wondering about this because that was the show that I like, Angela. I don't know about her politics or whatever. I mean, I think she should have been the leader. I think charisma wise, I don't know about policies wise because we've got this one big issue that's come up that I think people are going to desert the left, Labour, Greens, SNP, etc., for reform as a protest vote. Then they'll probably switch to Advance because they're better on that one issue. And then there might be a one issue party that comes along and they might vote for that. But and it looks like she's going to lose her seat to an identity candidate in either Workers' Party, which wouldn't be an identity party technically. Well, that's it. So, or a total independent who would be really an identity party by the looks of it, really. Um, or is it to Reform? Actually, she might be losing it to Reform by 41% or something. Anyway, I just thought, well, maybe her parents understood the benefit system inside out. Maybe so maybe this was how she was viewing tax. I mean, I wouldn't have thought so, but I don't know, because she done that thing with her other home in 2009 where it's all a bit opaque, really. It's all a bit vague. Um, you know, the legacy media went on about her, did she have the right to vote from there, and something to do with the tax claim or something. I don't know what it was, but personally I would have wanted to know what about child tax credits, the benefit system, when that, because it looked like she was staying with her husband in another home, and maybe was it her brother that was staying there or something? I don't know. So was he paying benefits? All this sort of stuff. I would have looked at it from that angle, but nobody seemed to pay attention. And then, so it made me wonder, well, maybe she understands the tax system quite a lot as well, in the same way as benefits, because it's the same thing. Taxpayers are paying for it, or you're making a saving. Because this house in Brighton was like £800,000. She should have called it as a second home, but she was calling it as a first home because she's got a trust for her son, because during childbirth, he got damaged or something by the NHS. She got a deal from it, which she kept hidden from the public. We only found out about it last week. She got a compensation claim, and I think she's complained about compensation claims before in general. I don't know about that actually, but she had done a compensation claim, so she got a lot of money or something. She had made up a trust for her kids, so it was all getting complicated now, and put her former house, or her house in Stoke or whatever it is, in the trust name. And apparently he's about 17 now. If she'd waited another year, this wouldn't have been an issue or something, I don't know. But why she was putting her trust on it, I don't know. But it sounds like the kind of thing that the Tories are accused of, really. So she was taking this Brighton home, putting it down as her sole home. It wasn't a second home, which meant she paid £30,000 stamp duty, whereas if it was a second home, she'd pay 70,000, and this is what she get caught out. So a 40,000 difference. It's quite a big difference, So I thought, well, if it was benefits, she'd almost definitely being charged with that. But what about tax? So first of all, I asked, did she commit a crime? She bought a £800,000 flat in Hove. And who's she living with as well? I presume she's living with her son and that. She's taking all them down. So who's living in the old house? I don't know. She paid the standard. Well, I don't know if she's staying with her son and that. She paid the standard rate of stamp duty, approximately £30,000. And there's another story come up now that some feel that the house she put in the trust was overvalued by about £150,000, and so I don't know who's paying for that. I don't, it's all very strange. However, due to a trust that had been set up for her disabled son, she should have paid a higher rate for about £70,000. Um, but also, she's the housing minister. Could she not? You would think that would be the person with the most contacts on this, to confirm it as well. You know, I mean, you probably could even get it for free, the free best tax advice if you're the housing minister. Even from the civil servants, I would have thought, maybe got an opinion. She's saying she's working with the HMRC to resolve the matter, so probably not going to court. Not, and that's a Solari Magnus, the ethics advisor, said she acted with integrity. She did not seek the specific tax advice that was recommended to her. So that's pretty sloppy, is it not? Especially if you're a housing minister. I mean, I suppose I would really need to wait for tax experts or things to people to talk. It seems that one of these things are sort of an emperor's new clothes things where you think, well, you should have easily checked that out. But the people are saying in the legacy media it's really complex and all that. So it's one of these situations, You'd have thought in the online tax calculator or something, she would have even said, I don't know. Anyway, she resigned as Deputy Prime Minister, Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, and Deputy Leader of the Labour Party. I think she'll be back probably because she's too good a character. I'm not saying she's good. She's good at making fun of Tory MPs and that's what I mean. Although they're not going to be the opposition soon, like all the reform. But so I was just asking it, isn't this a crime? The difference between tax evasion, a crime, and simple error on tax avoidance, or tax avoidance, which is not a crime, but can be subject to penalties, hinges on intent. Tax evasion, this involves deliberate and dishonest actions to illegally underpay tax. So, if an individual knowingly and willfully attempts to deceive HMRC to avoid paying their tax, it is considered a crime and can lead to prosecution, fines and even imprisonment. So that's what I'm wondering, I'm not in a position to know. I would have thought if you're the housing minister that you couldn't make this mistake, but and she said that she asked her legal team, but they say they don't do tax, her legal team who'd done the housing for her, bought the house for her and that, but they said they don't give tax advice, so I don't know, the whole thing's sloppy, underpayment or error, so this is what she was probably come out with. In such cases, HMRC's approach is typically to collect the underpaid tax, often with additional interest and civil penalties. Careless error, deliberate but not concealed, etc. In Angela Rayner's case, the ethics advisor, Prime Minister's ethics advisor, said that her underpayment was not a deliberate act of tax evasion. He concluded that she acted with integrity and that her misunderstanding of the complex stamp duty rules was a result of not seeking the specific expert tax advice. Well, is that not pretty sloppy, That was recommended to her. It was even recommended. She said there was an error. I don't know. It's all very strange. So, it was just a breach. If the ethics advisor hadn't found it was a breach, she would have probably still been in there, maybe, if she wanted to try and stay, unless Keir opted to sack her. And then I wondered, is any tax expert saying it's easy to understand this tax code, It's the opposite of complex. Because in a way, it seems simple to me, although I don't know really. Because you've put your old house in a trust, then she's saying, no, that's not my first. And is that not her first home anymore? Is this the only place she's really staying now? Where's his son staying, you know? I mean, I don't know, but I think he's maybe staying with the father and she comes home on the weekend or something. I really don't know. Don't know what is going on. Yeah. And then she kept that compensation claim secret until last week, you know, NHS compensation. Probably, personally, because she probably knew it probably looked a bit bad, you know, because a lot of us are wondering when we see these NHS compensation claims, we're thinking, can the taxpayer afford that, you know? Oh, how much has been spent on compensation claims by the time? So, breakdown, complexity of trusts. It was for a disabled son. The tax treatment of such trusts is highly technical, complex, fact sensitive. Apparently, there's a rule that an individual can be treated as owning a property even if they don't have legal title, particularly in cases where they or their children are beneficiaries of a trust. And specialist advice is crucial, which she didn't get, even though she's a housing minister, you know. Could have probably got it free from civil servants. The political and ethics advisors reporting the matter, as well as comments from tax professionals, emphasise that this kind of situation requires specialist tax advice. It's not something that a standard conveyancer or a layperson would be expected to understand on their own. The report specifically notes that it was deeply regrettable that this specific tax advice was not sought. I mean, maybe this is the bit we should all be focusing on, you know, really. It was very sloppy for a housing minister, a deputy prime minister, not to get that, you know. So, significant financial impacts. Uh, it's not really a small detail to me, though, I would say. Constant changes in tax law. So there was a change in April 2025 which adds another layer of complexity for property buyers and professionals alike, but I don't know if it had anything to do with that. So there's a strong consensus among tax experts that the tax code governing stamp duty in cases involving trusts is not easy to understand, and that Angela Rayner's mistake was a result of this complexity. So it'd be really interesting to see if any say no, say the opposite, you know. Did she get expert tax advice? She did not get expert tax advice at the time of her property purchase in Hove, despite a recommendation to do so. So the ethics advisor reviewed her case and found that the advice she received from her conveyancer and a trust lawyer was not expert tax advice. Both sets of advice included a substantial caveat and either a suggestion or a recommendation that she should obtain specialist tax advice. And then her conveyancing firm came out and said the day before this she resigned that they told her that they don't do tax advice and to get it, you know. They said it's also stated that it does not provide tax or trust advice. Yeah, because she said on one of the daytime shows that she asked her legal team and they said no or something. So is she lying about that, or, you know, it's one of those things. And she sought further advice after media scrutiny, and this is when she realised. But I don't know. Maybe she gets sacked for just being sloppy. I was just wondering if the online tax calculator would spot it. Um, it's designed for common, straightforward transactions. It would ask for a few key bits of information such as property's price, whether you're a first-time buyer, whether it's residential or commercial, whether you already own another residential property, for the higher rate surcharge. I think that's for the second home surcharge. I think the idea of this is that they're trying to clamp down on people owning second homes or discourage it so that other people can get first homes, you know. Um, and it's a bit of a thing that Labour are really supportive of. The Tories, well, they brought it in, but Jacob Rees-Mogg is against it or whatever. But personally, I'm alright with it. I think it's a good idea to stop buy-to-letters as well, which I'm in favour of as well, you know. If you get the money for the second home, uh, here's a bit of extra. Because maybe your stamp duties, um, that might not be the thing was buying it, you know, because the crucial problem in Angela Rayner's case was the complex deeming provisions related to her son's trust. The rules state that even if you don't legally own a property, you are treated as owning it for stamp duty purposes if you have a beneficial interest in a trust that holds property. This is a highly technical, legal and tax point that would not be covered by a standard online calculator. I'd be interested to see if it does. Maybe it asks you, do you own it? Is it for a trust or something? But they're saying that a calculator would not ask, are you a beneficiary of a trust that holds property, or does a dependent child of yours have a beneficial interest in a trust? Um, so anyway, Gemini's saying that the standard online tool probably wouldn't spawn it. Has Angela criticised politicians about their tax affairs? Yes, she has. She was the first to call for the resignation of Nadim Zahawi over his unpaid taxes, stating that Nadim Zahawi's story about his tax affairs doesn't add up. His position is untenable. Rishi Sunak must dismiss him from the cabinet. She also criticised Jeremy Hunt in 2018, posting on X that he avoids £100,000 stamp duty by exploiting Tory tax loophole and buying flats in bulk. This history of criticising other politicians has left her particularly vulnerable to charges of hypocrisy as her own tax scandal unfolded. Yeah, so that's it. Like I say, I mean, I find her really likeable. I find her common sense. She's the best politician to watch in Parliament in terms of being a laugh. She seems clued up from what I've seen. I wouldn't vote for her because there's one issue that the country's we should be voting on, and she's for the change of that issue, for the way it's going, the status quo. So I could never vote for her on that. And I think because of that, she's someone who's not of her time really, because I think most Labour, most left voters are going to switch to Reform on the single issue, or then maybe switch to Advance on the issue. So it's a one issue time, and she's on the wrong side of that basically. But apart from that, it would have been interesting to see. But I think she'll be back anyway because she's such a strong character and personable. I think she'll be back. So yeah, maybe even to take over Keir Starmer's position. That's what she was probably thought would happen anyway, but she probably will. Keir Starmer said a lot of fond things about her, and at one point he tried to get rid of her, as I recall, and he was unable to. That shows how his strength, you know. He likes to pick on the ones that he thinks are weak at the sidelines. He tried to get rid of Diane Abbott, which was a good idea in my opinion, but he buckled it. But they got a few others, but one of them looks as if they're going to win West Streeton's seat in the next election, which I think will be much sooner than 2029. That's it really. But like I say, it's great listening to Angela and all that. But that's all this stuff to do with tax and benefits. You know, it's all strange to me. Like, and I was just wondering if it was from her upbringing and that, and ducking and diving or whatever. You know, and also I wondered if it was a crime. You know, it's just weird. £40,000, quite a lot of money. All right, bye bye.